Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Coachable Moments. I am excited to be back with you. It's been a few months since I was able to upload a podcast episode, and I have a lot to share with you guys on what all has happened in my life, and to be able to deposit some of my experiences into your life over the last few months. It's been very eye-opening. It's been very encouraging. It's been challenging, to say the least. But I learned so much through the challenges. I know several of you have reached out and inquired about where I've been and why I haven't put any new episodes on the channel. And, it's all about timing. And, that's one of the main points that I've learned over my life is that, it's all about timing. And when it's the right time, I'm led to upload a new episode. And I really firmly believe that, God's timing is perfect. So, this is not a job per se for me, but it's more so a personal mission that I'm on to share these episodes and hopefully add value to my listeners. So this first episode, I want to really share some things, some very personal, and it's just a conversation. It's not a formatted episode by any means. I just want to be real for a moment. And on last week, I was at my job. For many of you that know me, you know that I live in Birmingham, Alabama, and I work in Washington, D.C., the DMV area. So my weeks usually look like, Monday morning at about 3 a.m., I wake up, get dressed and, attempt to leave home at about 4 o'clock so that I can be at the airport by 5 o'clock to catch a 6 o'clock flight. I'm usually on the 6 o'clock flight out of Birmingham, and I usually land in D.C. around 8-ish, 8:30, 9 o'clock, somewhere in there. It all depends, depending on, if the airline is experiencing issues or whether the weather permits, etc. So typically that's my schedule. And I usually work in D.C. to about Wednesday evening. From time to time, I have to be there all week. So I may leave Monday morning and may not come back to Friday evening sometimes, but typically it's Monday morning to like Wednesday night. And with that being said, there are moments to where, there is no flight back to Birmingham. I may have to fly to Atlanta and then catch the shuttle from Atlanta to Birmingham or Huntsville and take an Uber. So it depends. It's very, very interesting from week to week on the itinerary, how things unfold. But, without question, I'm usually up at 3 a.m. getting prepared to fly to work. And during those 2 or 3 days that I'm in D.C., I usually, either find an Airbnb or a hotel or some type of accommodations to sustain me while I'm there, which gets very expensive. On a week-to-week basis, it costs me anywhere from $1,000 to about $1,200-$1,300 just to go to work each week. And it's amazing how God provides. So I didn't say that for sympathy or anything like that. It was simply to let you know that God is an amazing provider. He always takes care of me And my life isn't traditional. It doesn't look like everyone else that may just have a 10 or 20-minute commute to the workplace and then, sit in traffic driving home in the evening. It's kind of unorthodox the way I have to travel just to work and provide. So that's typically what my week looks like. So last week, I had flown out of Birmingham, got to work, exhausted from just sitting at the airport on a delayed flight. And I finally get to the office and just hearing some of the conversations from the people that are sitting in my area, and a lot of complaints about, it took 30 minutes to get to work, traffic was horrendous. Some of the people would be on the metro and, the train would have delays. So it would cause them to be, a few minutes late getting to the job. And I was just sitting there listening to all of the comments. Some of it was complaints, some of it was just, typical conversation in the workplace in the morning. But I just thought about what all I had gone through in order to get to the job, spending $1,000 to be at a job. And then when I get there, I hear people complaining about a 10-minute commute. So, after the conversation, everybody kind of chimed in. They looked over at me and was like, "How was your morning, Pat? How did your morning start?" And for a split second, I kind of zoned out because I started to think about what all I had to do to get to work. And before I could answer them, it was like I had this hour-long thought in my head that really only took about 5 seconds before I responded. But I want to share some of the thoughts that went through my head when they asked me how my morning started. So I was reminded of this passage, and it's a biblical reference, where God talked about the Son of Man not having a place to lay his head, but all of the animals of the wild would have their own nest to call home, but yet being on a mission to seek and save those that are lost, he found that quite often he wouldn't have a place to even lay his head. And for a moment, not to even draw a parallel, to God and myself, but, being a believer, being on a mission sometimes requires us to be uncomfortable. While I would love to sleep in my bed till 6 a.m. and then get up and shower and only have to drive 15 minutes to work, that would be amazing. But 3 o'clock is a different story. That's a different animal. And I'm so thankful for my past because the military really helped me break away the constraints of time, and be willing to do whatever I have to do in order to make it work. That was one of the things that I learned in my military service. So, the time is not necessarily a problem for me, but I would love to be able to sleep until 6 a.m., but that's just not the way my life is set up. And so in that particular scripture, it was basically setting up the passage across the Sea of Galilee, I believe it was. Don't hold me to it, but I think that's the reference in that scripture. And I recall reading that and how the scribes would run up and, commit that they would follow Christ wherever he went. And, he kind of set that up, to let them know that sometimes what you say you're willing to do, quite often the journey itself can make you turn back or grow weary on the journey. And, I thought about my own situation and how easy it was before, because I was working from home and, I could be in my pajamas all day, do a couple of emails, maybe a PowerPoint or two, and my life was like eating cake. I didn't even have to think about it. It was super easy. And the whole point of the scripture about not having a place to lay your head and the commitment that it takes to follow God, you're basically on a permanent road trip. You don't have a place that you can necessarily call your home, and you have to be committed to deal with what comes with that. And sharing a story that, when you think about the expense of going to work in a situation like this, you'll spend easily $5,000 a month. That's easy. Just going to work, having a place to stay, and then flying home. It's not a lot of people that are willing to commit to a lifestyle like that, or be financially able to commit to a lifestyle like that. And, in full disclosure, I'm not really able to commit to a lifestyle like that financially because it's very taxing. It takes a lot out of you when, you get paid, and that the money that you make is really enough for you to pay some bills, and then the remainder of it you have to keep so that you can afford to go to work. I know some of y'all are thinking, like, why don't you just get a job, close to home in Alabama? Yeah, I've tried that. And I've applied to hundreds of jobs close to home. And I realized that that's not the mission that God has me on at this point in time. It's like there's a lesson that I'm learning through this that I have to learn in order to satisfy this mission. So while I would love to have that 5-minute commute to work, it's just not the way the cookie crumbles for me at this point. So I spend a lot of money traveling back and forth for work. And I was reminded about that, not having a place to lay your head. I was traveling to work here recently, and with everything that I'm responsible for financially, not just for myself, but for my family, and it gets heavy. The burden definitely gets heavy. And I recall I've had moments where I've sat at the airport and didn't have the money to buy the ticket to go to work. I just had faith, and I would go sit in the airport, hours before my flight, and just try to figure something out. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I've had moments to where I've been that low, and I just get up and drive to the airport anyway. Like, I've got the money to fly out, knowing that I hadn't even bought a ticket yet. It's crazy. And I remember sitting at the airport one morning, and it was a very important meeting coming up, and I had to be at work. I had to get on this flight some kind of way. And I was sitting there in the lobby area of the airport, trying to figure out how I was going to get a ticket and go through TSA and all of that good stuff. So I was just sitting there, and I decided to go through the motion on the app like I was buying my ticket. And when I got to the last screen where it said, check out, there was an option that presented itself, and I never recall seeing it on the app. But it was an option to buy my ticket now and pay for it later over time. So I was like, what the hell? I don't have anything else to try. So I literally clicked on it and got approved to buy my ticket. So as ridiculous as that sounds, I was literally walking by faith. I went to the airport and went through the motions, and I used this feature that was on the app that morning and purchased a ticket to be able to get on the plane. And I knew nobody would believe me if I just shared that, but I have no reason to lie to you, and I want you to know how important faith is for any journey that you're on. And so I go through TSA, get on the plane. I don't even think about how I'm going to get home. I just know that I need to get to this meeting. And so I get on the plane, fly to DC. I take the metro train to work, and I'm sitting there at my job at the desk, and everybody's, I look normal. I don't look like I have a problem in the world. I just look like I'm, showing up, looking like $1 million, like I'm there to just do my job and then go home. And some of the people, would say, man, you look like you're really into your work because you're zoned out. And I was laughing on the inside because I was thinking to myself, like, I'm not zoned out. I'm thinking about where I'm going to sleep tonight. Like, I don't have the money for a hotel. I don't really know people here. I'm just taking it minute by minute and trying to figure it out. But I'm locked in on the computer because I'm trying to find a hotel or an Airbnb or some type of housing for the night. And, oddly enough, there was a huge convention in town in DC, and the hotels had gone from like $200 a night to like $5,000 a night. And I just laughed because I was like, God, you really gonna do your boy like that? Like you know what I've got to do. Like I'm on this mission to work, to provide for my family, and I get here and I need you to come through for me because I don't have a way to pay $5,000 a night for a hotel room close by. So I literally, I go through the motions and, I'm racking my brain trying to figure out, where I'm going to stay. And I just logged into my app and I saw that I had enough points to stay in a hotel, but the hotel was like 45 minutes to an hour away, which if you guys have taken an Uber or a Lyft in DC and it's an hour away, that's like $80 to $100 just to ride there, which I didn't have. So, 5 o'clock comes and I'm off work, still nowhere to stay. And, the pressure is on. What do I do? And, I never shared it with anybody because, for one, it's kind of embarrassing, but at the same time, I learned so much about this situation that I had to share it. So I literally had my duffel bag with my clothes that I was going to wear to work that next day, and my toiletries or whatever in my bag, and my backpack with my laptop, my work computer and everything. And I'm literally just walking around town aimlessly. I have nowhere to go, and for those of you that know me, I'm a religious planner. Like, I plan everything to the T. But, I had hit a rough patch. I financially, I had so many responsibilities on me that literally I was robbing Peter to pay Paul. And then I was doing a home invasion on Paul later on that night while he was asleep to get the money back so I could repay Peter. That's how serious it was. So, dark came. I was literally had nowhere to go, and I walked over to a hotel, and I just sat on the bench in front of the hotel, and I sat there till about 3:30 a.m. No sleep, just locked in on my purpose. I gotta be at work tomorrow, and then I can leave. But, again, I didn't have the money to fly home. So that was kind of it was a pointless night to even waste energy thinking about how I was going to get home. So I started to feel sleepy. I was kind of hungry. So I opened my phone and I Googled what locations are 24 hours that stay open 24 hours in the area that I was close to. And the only thing that popped up was McDonald's. And I was like, wow, McDonald's is open? And it was literally like a block away. So I grabbed my things and I walked over to McDonald's, and sure enough, they were open. So I go in and, late night in the DMV McDonald's, they only serve like regular cheeseburgers, double cheeseburgers, and fries. Their full menu is not available all night. So as unhealthy as I felt it was, no shade to McDonald's and your nutritional value, but I typically don't eat McDonald's, but I was starving, and I got a cheeseburger, fries, and a drink, and I sat there, ate it very slowly so I could stay in the lobby as long as I could, to keep from being outside in the cold. And so I stayed there, finished my food, and about that time, it was getting ready. I was approaching the time for me to go back in for my second day of work, and so at the job, there's like showers and a gym and everything where you can go and take a shower, get cleaned up, and go back upstairs for your second day of work. So that's pretty much what I did, and nobody knew. I just looked normal like everybody else. I hadn't gone to sleep at all that night, and went in and knocked out my second day of work. And then it came time for me to fly home, and I went through everything, and I realized that typically I'll fly to work with on American Airlines or whatever. And so I happened to go into my other app. I went into my Delta app, and I had enough points to pay for a ticket to go back home. And I was just blown away at how God provided for me to go to work, because I was willing to go to work regardless of how difficult it was for me to be at work. I was still willing to go, and still willing to be on the mission that he had for me that week or whatever. So long story short, I booked my flight and I flew home, and when I got back to the airport, it presented me with another situation. And I was like, because I had to pay for parking, and I just didn't have the money to pay for it. So oddly enough, I logged into my app, on my banking app, and I had been refunded some money. I forget where it was from, but it was for some company. I had a refund due to me, and it showed up in my bank account at the perfect time that I needed to pay for my car so that I could go home. And literally I paid for the parking and returned home after a couple of days in DC for work. So when I think about the question that was originally asked to me by my coworkers, when they were talking about their morning, and they asked me, how was my morning going? And all those memories just flooded through my head about the things that I had to go through in order to just be at work. And my response was, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. That's all I could say. I didn't, share any details with them. I just kind of laughed to myself that sometimes we never know what people are going through. They show up for work, they smile, they put on a face that hides everything that they're going through, and you never know. So the next time you're having a thought to complain about what you have to do to be at work, just take a second and just give thanks and be grateful instead that you have the ability to take that 15-minute commute, and that you have a roof over your head that you can call home that's only 15 minutes away, and you have a comfortable bed to go to sleep in, because you never know what the person in the cubicle next to you is going through. And I said all that not to complain at all, because I've learned so much on this journey about how faithful God is. And if I could just live up to be a fraction of that, then I feel completely successful, because it takes a lot. And every time that I get on that plane to go to work, I choose not to complain, because I know that if I take one step, God will take two. And what my today looks like doesn't determine what my tomorrow will look like. You just got to be willing to go through it. So I just wanted to share this word of encouragement for those of you that are uncertain about tomorrow and what it looks like, because you're inadequate financially, or you're emotionally not there to where you feel like you can go through tomorrow. Just know that if you wake up and you put on your clothes and you say your prayers and you take that step outside of the door, that is the largest part of the battle, because God will go with you, and he will take you through the day, and he will get you home safe, and he will reward you for your faithfulness. So with that, I'll conclude this episode, and definitely thank you guys for checking in to see where I've been. I'm in great spirits. I'm learning a lot on my journey, and I look forward to sharing even more of it with you all, my faithful audience. So until next time, feel free to share this episode with someone that may be going through their own rough patch, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. I love to see this thing grow out to 1 million followers. But if I only have 10 that are faithful, I'm thankful for that as well. So with that, be blessed, and until next time.